Hey everyone, today I'm going to be rating new makeup that I've been trying over the past couple of weeks. Some of these products you haven't seen me talk about, some of them you have, but the ones that you've seen were kind of like a first impression last time, so I thought I would come back and just give you my final word because sometimes I try things, I like them initially, and they don't work out. So let's go ahead and just jump right into it. I have quite a bit to get to, so we'll start with this mist from L'Oreal. So this is a product I haven't talked about yet, and this is their Infallible 3-second setting mist. This is kind of an interesting product because it's a continuous spray. It's not just like a typical setting spray where you have to keep pumping it. You just hold the button down and mist it all over your face. And this has been going absolutely viral on social media. I'm seeing it everywhere. And even on the Ulta website, it has a pretty good rating. So I may be alone with this, and I would love to hear your take if you've tried this before, but I do not like this spray at all. First of all, it is really heavily perfumed. So when I spray this on, I'm just kind of like coughing and it's not pleasant. And the second thing is that it kind of feels like hairspray, and the sprayer on it, even though it's a mist, it's a little aggressive, I guess. It's not like, think of like the Evian water mist that you're spraying on, and it's just kind of like a nice gentle mist. This is more like I took a can of hairspray and sprayed it directly on my face. Like it's got some force to it. And it reminds me of the Aquanet days when I used to plaster my bangs back in the 80s, and I would be spraying like half a can of Aquanet on my hair. Sometimes I would miss and get it on my face. That's basically what using this feels like. It kind of took me back a little bit, and it smells like hairspray too. Not to mention just like the stickiness factor. So I'm not a fan of the whole experience with this. Not to mention, I personally didn't find that it made my makeup last any longer. A couple times when I tested it, I sprayed it on just half of my face, like I covered half with my hand and just sprayed it over here. And then at the end of the day, I felt like my blush looked the same on both sides, my eyeshadow, everything kind of looked the same. So this totally bombed for me. I would probably give it a 1 out of 10 because I don't see myself really using it again, just from the fragrance to, just the whole experience of using it. Not a fan. I do like the Morphe Continuous Setting Mist. I think that one is a little bit better. It does have a little fragrance, but it doesn't, it's not as heavy as this one is. It doesn't smack you in the face either. It's a little bit more gentle on the skin. But I think for now, I'll probably just stick to my Milani Make It Last. This one's my favorite, and I just think it does a better job. Moving on, I have a couple foundations I wanted to talk about. The first one is from One Size. It's the Turn Up the Base Full Beat Liquid Foundation. So this I did try in a video recently, and I was really pleasantly surprised at how beautiful it looked on my skin, especially because this claims to be a soft matte finish, and I have really dry skin. So usually I avoid anything matte. But for me, I didn't feel like this looked matte at all. It actually has a little bit of a satiny finish. It just looked like my skin when I put it on. There wasn't shine, but at the same time, it didn't make everything look drier. And I also really liked the texture of it as well. It's kind of a medium weight foundation. It's not something super thick or heavy, but it's also not thin like a skin tint. It's right in that medium spot that I really like. And on top of that, even though it claims to be full coverage, when I used it with a sponge, it sheared it out just perfectly. And I thought it had just the medium coverage that I'm usually looking for. I also felt like this didn't sink into my fine lines and pores as we went throughout the day. It didn't break up or look patchy. It sat really nicely, and it was very long lasting on my skin. I just felt like my skin looked good all day long. So I would actually give this a 9 out of 10. I think it is very close to being perfect. I docked 1 point because of the shade range. I just feel like while the shade range in itself is good, like it comes in a lot of different colors, I think, and I'm not just picking on One Size here, so don't get me wrong, I think a lot of brands have some work to do when it comes to cool undertones, because this shade that I have is shade 15R, which is supposed to have a rosy undertone, but when I put this on my skin, it does still look a little bit yellow. And I'm just seeing this with a lot of different foundations that claim to have a cool undertone. They're either still too yellow, or they have this like a little bit of a peachy undertone instead instead of pink, which I would prefer. So while the shade match wasn't bad, I just think it wasn't perfect. I think one brand that does cool tone foundations really well is No. 7 at the drugstore. They have some cool undertones that are just perfect. So anyway, I felt like this was an awesome foundation nonetheless, and the reviews are very mixed on the Sephora website. So please don't hate me if you buy this and you don't end up loving it. I think right now people are very polarized with this one. They either love it and are giving it 5 stars or they're giving it 1 star. So I don't know how it's going to work for you, but I had great luck with this one. Another foundation that I wanted to talk about quickly is the new LYS foundation stick. So I actually haven't heard many people talking about this. I know Steph from Steph's Beauty Stash did a review on it, but other than that, I don't, Kaki also reviewed it, but I haven't seen a ton of videos and reviews, but I really like LYS. I think their products have always been really solid for me, no complaints, and also the price point is so good. I think they're just one of the more affordable, at least at Sephora, brands. And this, when I first saw it packaging wise, it looks like the Hourglass foundation stick with the triangular packaging, although I think LYS does the triangle for pretty much everything in their line. So their blushes are like this, the contour. So these come in 22 shades. I got the shade MN3, which is neutral buff, and it's supposed to be light to medium skin with neutral undertones. I feel like the shade range isn't the greatest with this one, again, because only the very fairest shades have the pink undertone. I didn't really have a lot to pick from. I could have either picked a fair shade that looked a little bit more like me, then some of the light shades in between were very warm undertones, and then this was a neutral. So unfortunately, this color is a little bit too dark for me, but I'm wearing it today. I feel like once you blend it out, it works out okay. Now, I have tested this out with both a sponge and a brush. I think the sponge application is the one that I prefer because it just helps the foundation stick to melt into my skin just a little bit more, and it gives an incredibly flawless result. This is a very lightweight foundation stick, so it's not as thick or heavy as some others that I've tried. I also felt like it was relatively hydrating on my dry skin. It didn't make anything look cakey or dry, so I liked that about it. Applying it with a brush, I also thought it looked good, just maybe not quite as smooth. I think with a brush application, it sits on top of my skin a little bit more because the brush doesn't necessarily push it in quite as much as the sponge does. And I think it also helps that a damp sponge will just thin the product out a little bit more. But it is pretty lightweight on its own, and I still did like the way my skin looked with the brush application. I think it has a beautiful satiny finish. It looks just like skin, which I thought was great. And the first time I put this on, right away, I was about to give it a very high score. But as I wore it throughout the day and on subsequent days, one thing that I noticed is that this tends to rub off of your face very easily. It transfers like crazy. There was one day when I just kind of rubbed my nose like I had an itch and I just went like this. And actually you can see it now. When you touch it, hopefully the camera's picking this up, but you can see the redness of my nose coming through. Like the foundation just completely came off in this spot right here. And it comes off easily. You barely even have to touch. And all of a sudden you see some redness on the bridge of my nose again. So there's that aspect of it. Also, towards the nighttime, I noticed that my chin area was kind of breaking up. And I think that's just kind of the nature of cream products like this. They sit more on top of your skin, whereas the liquids just tend to sink in a little more. And I think because this has more of like that silky feel, it feels really nice going on, but then it's not going to grip to your skin. One of the foundation sticks I really love is the Lancome one. And that one, even though it's nice and thin and lightweight like this is, I just feel like that one grips to my skin a little bit better. So all of that to say, I would give this kind of like a mid rating, probably around a 5 out of 10. I do like the way it looks. It just doesn't last for me. I can help kind of boost the performance a little bit if I set it with powder or if I use a setting spray. That helps get a little more wear out of it, but I still wouldn't give it like an all-day wear kind of a rating. So it gets points for being a really natural looking foundation stick, but it's just unfortunately a little bit more of a finicky type of product. So it's not my absolute favorite. Another product that I tried recently are these blush bombs from Moira, and I loved this initially. I tried this purple one on in a video, and these, I feel like they're kind of dupes for the Merit blush bombs. I think they feel really similar, but I actually like the texture of the Moira ones a little more than the Merit. I felt like these were slightly less greasy, but they still have that sheer formula that blends on your cheeks so easily. They're not super pigmented, so if you like more of a natural looking blush, these are nice and sheer, but because they're not greasy, they also are, you know, you can build them up a little bit, which is nice. One of the things I really liked about this too is, at least on my dry skin, they didn't feel sticky. They dried down all the way, which was great. But unfortunately, these disappear so fast. They're gonna give the Makeup by Mario blushes a run for their money, because those blush bombs as well, I loved them initially, but they lasted for like an hour or two on my cheeks and then they were gone. These are kind of like that. So unfortunately, I have to give these a lower rating than I initially was thinking. I would have to put them at probably like a 3 or 4 out of 10, mostly because they just don't last and I don't see the point in wearing them, although they do look pretty when they're initially applied and I really like the colors they come in, but they're not my favorite. I much prefer their liquid blushes in the tubes or their powder blushes, which are amazing as well. Another blush that I got in PR recently are the Milani Cheek Kiss Liquid Blush and Glow. So these are, again, another dupe for the Charlotte Tilbury Glowgasm wands. At least a few of them are named after their powder blushes. So there's a Luminoso, there's a Dolce Pink, and the packaging is really similar to a lot of the other wands that have come out, except the sponge tip on these, I feel like it's not quite as soft and fluffy as the Charlotte Tilbury ones. These are a little more of like a stiff sponge, but I think the colors these come in are beautiful, and I think they have a good amount of pigmentation. They're not an overly pigmented blush like the Rare Beauty ones, but at the same time, I don't find them to be super sheer either. Some of the lighter colors like Luminoso and Dolce Pink, which is the one that I'm wearing today, I had to build up a little bit. I'll just show me applying the Dolce Pink one. And I found this to be especially true when I'm applying them with a sponge, because again, I think just the dampness of the sponge shears out the product a little bit more, and I felt like I really had to go back and apply more and more product. But on the other side, when I applied it with a brush, I felt like it didn't need to be built up quite as much. It retained a lot of that pigmentation. And these have more of a glowy finish, again, very much like the Charlotte Tilbury ones. And I think out of all of the Charlotte Tilbury blush dupes that are on the market right now, Milani has definitely come the closest. I think this formula is incredibly silky and really easy to blend out. They don't get patchy or dry too quickly like the ones from Flower Beauty or the e.l.f. ones. These are truly effortless, and also the amount of shimmer that's in these and the type of shimmer is very comparable to Charlotte Tilbury, because these are, you know, you see the glow on your cheeks, but it's not glitter. It's a little bit more of a pearly, more refined shimmer. Now, is it going to highlight your pores? Yes. Anything that has this shine and shimmer, anything that's not matte is going to highlight your pores a little bit more. But the overall effect is still really beautiful. So I would give these, for me personally, an 8 out of 10. I think the formula is closer to like a 10 out of 10, but if I have to give them an overall review, I would probably do 8 out of 10, just because I don't love a shimmery blush on me these days. I think they just highlight my pores a little bit too much. But that being said, I think I would be more inclined to wear these like if I were going out at night or to a party or something, and I want that glow on my cheeks, and I won't be going out in the sunlight where that shimmer is going to be super apparent. I think I would probably reach for these in that kind of case. But for everyday, I would probably reach for Milani's other liquid blushes that don't have the shimmer a little bit more often. I love that formula. I think those are fantastic. Or their cream blushes in the compact are really nice too. So I think those two are a little bit more my speed these days, but I still really like these. I enjoy the formula. and I think they look beautiful. So if you like a more glowy blush, I think you'll really enjoy those a lot. All right, so next we do have quite a few lip products to go over, but I want to talk about what's on my eyes first, and it's the Frosty the Snowman palette from Colourpop. They just came out with an entire collection, a Frosty collab, if you will, and this palette, look at how gorgeous this is. It's so pretty. And when I saw this, I was like, finally, somebody did a fully cool tone palette. I think there are so many palettes out there, like my beloved Stone Cold Fox still has warm tones even though it has a lot of cool tones, or the I Need a Nude palette. It's very cool tone but still has the warm ones in there. Even like the Sigma cool neutrals they came out with recently, it's not all cool tones. Most palettes always have to include something warm, and I love that Colourpop didn't do that with this one. It is so beautiful, and it's really just exactly what I would think of if I were doing a Frosty palette or like a Winter Wonderland kind of palette. This is just absolutely stunning. I'll show you guys some swatches and close-ups. One of the things about this palette too is it has a lot of the shifty shades and a lot of special shades. There are pressed glitters in here, and they're Colourpop's newer glitter formula. So this is one that, while I'm not a fan of glitter on my eyes for the most part, I do like this new formula because it's a little bit more of a slushy, kind of wet formula that really grips to your eyes better. And I find that when I wear these glitters, they don't fall all over my face. I'm not getting them in my eyes. So it's definitely an upgrade. I'm wearing some of them on my eyes today, and I don't have one speck of glitter on my face at all. So I think they did a really great job reformulating their new glitters. Now, when I showed this on YouTube Shorts and over on Instagram and TikTok, I got some questions asking about how close is it to the Aurora Struck palette from Colourpop, because I know a lot of you guys have this too. And I mean, I have to say it is really close. So looking at them side by side, I think there's a ton of overlap when it comes to the shades. The Aurora Struck palette obviously goes way deeper, and also it's a much bigger palette. So if you don't like these big palettes, you might prefer the Frosty one just a little more. In the Frosty palette, you're getting 1, 2, 3, 4 glitters, and then 3 of the shimmer shades that are just your basic metallics. So there's a lot of glitter in here. In the Aurora Struck palette, there are only 2 glitters. This one up here and then this one. And they're not even so much glitters as they are like glitter toppers or like the wet look shadows. So they're also a little bit different as well. But the rest of the shimmers in this palette are those more pigment heavy metallic shimmer shades. So if you prefer something like that, I think you'd probably like this one a little bit better. Not to mention this just has more colors to play with. But if you, a lot of people I know don't like the big palettes, so this is a nice pared down version. And I want to quickly just show you what I have on my eyes today and how I got the look. So I used this pink shade first in my crease, and then I just deepened it up with this one, which is like a cool pinky brown. Then I put this shade, Busy, 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 all over my lid, and I topped it with December Wind, which is a beautiful silver metallic. I also put a little bit of this deep gray shimmer in my outer corner, and I added the shade Something Wonderful, which is a topper, just right to the center of my lid. This one has kind of like a little bit of a shift to it. It's really beautiful and it gives a gorgeous effect. So I did use quite a few of the shades in my look today, but I just wanted to try as many as possible. They were all so beautiful. And even though I'm not the biggest fan of blue eyeshadow, I feel like this comes off a little bit more like purple blue. I would honestly give this one a 10 out of 10 for execution. I think Colourpop did an amazing job with it. A few other things in the Colourpop collection, we have this snowman sponge, which is so super cute. When you first get it, it actually looks white. But when you run it under cold water, it has to be like freezing cold. I'll show you a clip of me doing that. It instantly turns to blue, and it's such a fun little touch that they did. It actually reminds me of last year when they did their Valentine's collection. I still have this sponge. I use it all the time, actually. It's their heart sponge. This one turns bright pink when you put it in hot water. So initially I put this in hot water, which is what I usually do, and it didn't change color. And then I'm like, wait a minute, it's Frosty. It probably needs cold water. And then when I switched the water to cold, that's when it turned bright blue. So it's very cute. Do I love this sponge though? Not really. I think the shape is a little bit awkward. I did use the bottom just to blend my foundation, but I wish that it had a little bit of a pointier top. I get that they couldn't do that because of the shape of it, but if it was something like this sponge where I could really get up under my eyes, I felt like I couldn't with this. It was just kind of like a weird shape at the top. It's easy to blend with the bottom of it, but I think it's more of a novelty thing, so I don't even know what to rate this. I mean, a 10 out of 10 for cuteness for sure, but maybe like a 5 out of 10. I just don't feel like it's as usable as some of my other sponges, although it did the job. ColourPop also has a Jelly Much Shadow Duo, and this is kind of different packaging for the Jelly Much shadows. I like it. These are nice glass jars, and I absolutely love the Jelly Much formula. No complaints with this whatsoever. I think they are great for one and done shadows. They really grip to your lids, and even the shades that have glitter in them really stay put. I find that I don't have all this glitter fallout when I wear them, so usually if I'm gonna wear something glittery, I'll reach for either the Jelly Much shadows or their Super Shock shadows, and I know that they're not gonna go anywhere. And I also love these colors. Again, I think they go perfectly with the theme of the collection, with the frosty blue and the frosty pink. I would give these a 10 out of 10. I love the Jelly Much shadows. I'm a huge fan of them, as you probably know if you've been watching me for a while. So hands down, this is one of my favorite cream eyeshadow formulas, and the colors are beautiful. Okay, so let's move on to lips. There are a couple of lip products in the ColourPop collection, then we'll move on to some other stuff. So first we have the So Juicy Plumping Lip Balms. This comes in a kit, a set of 3, and these are sort of like ColourPop's dupe for the Tarte Maracuja Juicy Lips. These are supposed to be plumping. I don't find them to be a very intense type of a gloss, so they have a very, very slight tingle, nothing too crazy, maybe about as much as something like the Buxom lip glosses. They feel more cool on your lips than anything else. They don't burn or sting. And they also have a yummy vanilla scent. I love all these colors. I think they go really well with the collection. And they have that really soft, melty feel. They're super hydrating. They look really glossy on your lips. I'm a huge fan of these. I think they're one of the best dupes for the Tarte Maracuja Juicy Lips that I've tried so far. So I definitely recommend checking these out if you like that type of formula. I'm wearing the lightest shade today, actually. So I would rate this 10 out of 10. I love this formula, love the colors that they gave. If you're planning on getting anything else from this collection, I would definitely throw these in. These are really great. Also part of the Frosty collection are 2 lip kits. We have Snow Much Fun and Happy Jolly Fun. So Happy Jolly Fun is kind of like a peachy pink color story. You get the lip liner and also the Luxe lipstick. And these are both very creamy formulas. If you have drier lips, I think you'll love the formula of these, so no complaints there. The other one, Snow Much Fun, is kind of more of like a raspberry red color, which to me definitely says winter. So I think it's beautiful, but at the same time, like if I had to rate these by themselves, I would definitely give them a good score. But I'm having a little bit of a hard time figuring out how these fit into this collection. With the peachy shade, I think this is just way too warm toned to go with the palette. Like if you're getting these really cool tone looks with the palette, I would have loved to see maybe like a cool toned baby pink or like a dusty pink lipstick and lip liner versus the peachy color. And this one, I just feel like it's kind of a little too dark. Like the palette is very pastel, it's very light colors, and then you're gonna put like a bold lip with it. I don't know if it really goes. It's probably not what I would pair with the palette for most of the looks. I could see this looking really pretty if you're using maybe like the silver or like some of the white shades, but I don't see this looking great with, you know, like what I'm wearing today, for example. I think it would just be overkill, but I don't know. Personally, I don't think I would have necessarily chosen these colors to go with this collection. So I'm gonna give these maybe like a 5 out of 10. I think the formula is great. I think on their own, these lip kits are really pretty, but if you're buying it to go with the Frosty palette, I don't know, I just don't feel like they necessarily go that well. Okay, moving on to other lip products, I got the new shades of the Effortless lips from Revi Beauty. So this is Allie Glein's brand. She released 3 new shades for fall, and I love that she did more kind of nude and brown tones this time around. I think it's a perfect fall release. I think these colors are just amazing for fall. And this is one of my favorite tinted lip balm formulas too, hands down. The packaging is phenomenal because there's such such slim bullets. I find that I can get right to the outer corners of my lips without getting any on my skin. Like they're just super easy to control and lay down the color. And not only that, but the formula is just so soft and cushiony. There's not a ton of gloss to it, but there's a little bit. But when you apply this formula, it just feels so comfortable and velvety, and it's amazing. And these colors can also be built up very easily. You can do one swipe for more of a sheer look, or you can just kind of build them up a little bit and get a lot more depth out of it. And I know when I shot the video trying these on, I was wearing this eye look and they don't really go super well. I think, you know, these are very warm toned. My eyes are very cool right now, but I think if you're wearing a more warm makeup look, these are gorgeous. Like the lightest shade is one of the prettiest nudes I've ever tried. I usually avoid shades like this because they almost look like concealer lips on me, like it's too pale. But this is a great way to try a nude that has a little bit of color to it. It doesn't completely wash me out. So that's the shade Daisy. And then Zinnia is like the perfect kind of like rosewood color. It's a brown, but it has that beautiful rosy tone to it as well. So I love that. And then Verbena is almost like a Clinique Black Honey. So it's that really blackened berry kind of shade that just, I feel like would look really pretty on everybody. And again, because of this formula, you can sheer the color out if you don't like really dark shades, or you can build it up and get like a really bold look with it. So I would definitely rate these 10 out of 10, not just for the formula, but the colors I think are like, she knocked it out of the park. I mean, she always creates very wearable shades, but I just felt like these were a little something different and just perfect for the fall season. So love these. Next up, I got some new lip products from Jane Iredale. These came in PR, and these are new lip glosses. So these are called the Colourlux High Impact Lip Glaze. And these claim to be a full-bodied, non-sticky lip glaze that surrounds your lips in rich color, cushiony comfort, and reflective, satisfying shine. And I have to say, for glosses, these are incredibly pigmented. I mean, they really pack a punch. I was shocked when I first started wearing these. They not only give your lips a ton of color, but also a really glossy shine. They don't have a scent to them, so if you're sensitive to fragrance and lip products, these are unscented. And these also have a texture more like a lip oil than a gloss, so they are extremely lightweight. They almost feel like nothing on your lips. They have a non-sticky texture. They're just very silky as they go on. And I also find them to be really hydrating. They tend to smooth out my lip lines a lot and just make everything look very even and very pretty. So I think these are a little bit more of a unique release because you often don't see lip glosses that have this much pigmentation. Most of the time, they're a lot more sheer, but at the same time, that pigmentation level is one of the negatives about these glosses, I think, especially if you're buying them in the darker colors, like the reds and the deeper berries, because glosses have a tendency to migrate and to transfer a little bit. And because these are so thin, I could see them potentially migrating up into, like if you have wrinkles above your lip, I could see that happening. And also just if you're eating and drinking and all of that, they're gonna transfer because they're lip glosses, obviously. But I think with the lighter colors, sometimes it's not as obvious if it goes outside of your lip line. But with something this deep and also this pigmented, I think you're really gonna see it if it migrates either onto your teeth or outside of your lip line. So I would just be careful with these, particularly if you have some of the darker shades, but otherwise, I mean, formula-wise, 10 out of 10. I think they're beautiful, but as an overall rating, just because of the potential for migration, I would say maybe like a 7 out of 10, because I could see that being an issue. Just make sure to maybe wear a good lip liner with it, and hopefully that'll help a little. And yet another lip product are these new lip oils from Kiko Milano. So these are their 3D Hydra lip oils, and these claim to be a whole new level of cocooning comfort with up to 10-hour hydration and collagen boosting raspberry seed oil for a feather-light feel and the same legendary volumizing effect as their 3D Hydra lip glosses. So the glosses I have tried before, these come in pretty much the same packaging, just a different color cap, and the glosses are fantastic. I mean, they do have that slight plumping effect. Again, kind of think of the Buxom lip glosses. They're not quite as tingly as some of the other ones to the point where they feel uncomfortable. It's just a slight bit of tingle, but these have a little bit more of that tackier lip gloss kind of feel. These oils are much more smooth, non-sticky. They're also super hydrating. I'm just putting this one on, which is shade 4. They don't have any fragrance that I can smell at all, and they are so silky smooth, really, really hydrating, and insanely glossy. And what I love about these too is that they just have so much dimension. They all have little tiny like micro shimmers and glitters, and a lot of them have more of a shift. Like even this one, it looks pink in the tube, but some of the glitters in there have more of like a blue or purple tint to them. So they give that kind of dimensional volumizing effect. I don't really feel a lot of tingle with the lip oils, not as much as I do with the glosses. So I find them to be even that much more comfortable to wear. Plus they are so hydrating. Like they said 10 hours of hydration, and I would believe it, because even after these wear off, my lips still feel really nourished and really hydrated. I would say the only downside maybe to these is that they don't have a lot of color to them. This pink one has the most color and it's barely there. The others really, it's almost like a topper. You're just maybe getting like a wash of shimmer with these. These pretty much go on clear. This one, like I said, a tiny bit of color, but not really. So for me personally, I would dock these a couple points, maybe give them like a 7 out of 10, because while I think the formula is a 10 out of 10, I don't know how much I'll reach for these, because usually when I'm putting a lip product on, it's because I want some color. I think at best, I'll probably just use these as more of a topper. If I'm wearing maybe like a lipstick and I want it to look more glossy, I could put this on top and just add some hydration to anything that might be more drying. But am I likely to just wear these on their own? Probably not, because they're just not going to give me the color that I'm looking for. So anyway, guys, I think that's everything that I have that's new for now. But if you want to watch another video like this where I rank new makeup from a while ago, I'll put something right up there that you could check out next. And if you like this type of video, let me know, and I can definitely do more of them down the road. I want to thank you all so much for taking time out of your day to spend it here with me. I truly appreciate it. And I hope you all have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you in my next one. Take care, guys. Bye.